I'm a little embarrassed to admit how much time I spend every single day scrolling through Facebook Marketplace looking for worn out or outdated furniture that people are trying to get rid of on the cheap that I can easily bring home, freshen up, and flip for a profit. Last week I got super lucky and scrolled past a dark and dated Lane cedar chest. I've sold a few cedar chests in the past and always had really good luck flipping them for a profit. I also tend to have really good luck when I paint things pink. When I first scrolled past the chest in my feed, I knew it had potential, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what I could do to it to update it. So I switched over to Instagram and started searching for modern cedar chest updates. One of the first photos that popped up in my feed was this beauty from my fellow Canadian furniture painter, Charlene at Kennedy with Love. It's the exact same chest, and she is a furniture genius. She removed the old clunky skirting from the bottom, popped it up on some fresh new legs, and gave the whole thing a really clean, crisp paint job. So for my flip, I'm gonna follow her lead. So what I'm working with here is a 1972 Lane cedar chest. It is a dark oak veneer over a particle board construction, and the inside is all lined with beautiful, fresh cedar. You can usually figure out if something is veneer or not by taking a look at the back of the piece. Here you can see the different layers. There's a particle board, and that darker, thin layer on top is the veneer. Just like I start every other flip, this one is going to start out with a really good degreasing cleaner with some TSP alternative. Once I was done cleaning everything, I came back with some clean, clear water and wiped away any soap residue. This chest does have a full locking mechanism in place, and the original key is still there. Unfortunately, there was a safety recall on these chests a few years ago, so I'm actually going to be disabling the locking mechanism to make it safer for the new owners, and I'll give them the information needed to acquire a new safe latching mechanism. I'm going to be removing these knobs and replacing them with something a little more modern, but I will definitely hang on to these for a future flip. I went ahead and put the chest on its back so that I could remove this skirting. I purchased a new set of 4 plain wood furniture legs to replace the skirting on this piece. These guys are from Amazon, and I will leave them linked in the description box down below. These little feet did come sealed with some sort of poly top coat, but I wasn't a huge fan of the yellow wood tones, and I want to lighten them up a little bit, so I went ahead and removed that sealer. The new knobs that I want to put on this piece only require 1 hardware hole, so I'm going to go ahead and use some PC Lumber wood putty to fill in the other hardware hole. This is a 2-part epoxy product that comes in a little tube. You just need to slice off the amount that you need, and you mix the lighter and darker colors together, apply it to your piece, and it sets up in about 20 minutes. Once my filler was cured up nice and hard, I came in and sanded it with a 100 grit sandpaper, And then I switched out to one of my Surf Prep foam abrasive pads to scuff sand the rest of the piece. The squishy foam pad and the small square nature of this sander handled this trim like a breeze. I also went over all of the cedar lining with some super fine sandpaper just to remove a few little scuff marks. I'm planning on using a very light color on this piece, so I'm going to go ahead and prime the dark wood with my favorite Zinsser Bin shellac-based primer and a 4-inch microfiber roller. This primer can absolutely be sprayed. It even comes in a little spray can version, but I find it really messy to clean up. It requires ammonia and can't have any water come in contact with it, so I find that the roller is just easier for me. I've recently started putting my used rollers in a plastic bag and storing them in the fridge. That way I can use them on several different projects before I need to toss them. And while I wait for my primer to dry, I'm going to go ahead and lighten up these legs. I used a clean lint-free rag and some Varathane wood stain in the color Sun Bleached to apply a light kind of gray wash over these feet. Once I had the stain applied to each foot, I rolled my cloth over to a clean section and removed any excess. Once my primer was nice and dry, I went over everything one more time with one of those super fine sanding pads to remove any roller texture. Now it's time for my favorite part. I'm going to be painting this chest pretty pink. This color is called Summer Grace and it's made by House and Canvas. This is a really thick chalk style paint, so I'm going to be watering it down so that I can spray it in my gravity-fed HVLP pneumatic spray gun. Once my first coat of paint was dry, I noticed that there were some cracks or seams around the trim pieces on this. So to fill those in and make this look a little bit more seamless and professional, I'm going to be using some caulking to fill in those gaps. I just squeeze a small bead of that caulking into the cracks and use a wet finger to push it down and smooth it out. Once the caulking was dry, I was good to come back with my second coat of paint. To protect my new paint job and make this piece nice and easily wipeable, I'm going to be giving it 2 coats of Varathane Diamond Wood Finish in a satin sheen. Now it's time to attach the new legs to this piece. I just marked off the screw holes in the brackets that came with the legs, drilled some pilot holes, and then screwed them right in.
I used to wake up without confidence till I woke up with you right by my side. I didn't think that you would show up like you did, and you turned my life upside down. Oh, your love has got me high, never wanna say goodbye. It's like my world's on fire, like my world's on fire. This is where we're meant to be, singing to this melody. Oh, this melody. So sing.
You guys always ask me about pricing and what kind of profits I make on my flips. And I've sort of shied away from talking about it here on the channel, not because there's anything to hide, but just because it is such a variable subject. Pricing furniture flips is going to be different depending on your location, the availability of pieces to work on, the cost of materials where you're living, your skill level, so many different factors. So please try not to get too hung up on me and what I'm selling my pieces for in my particular circumstance. But since we're already on the topic of pricing, let me go ahead and break down the numbers on this piece. I picked up the chest for $25. I spent $33 on the new legs for this piece, and my other material costs like primer, paint, top coat, and some leftover knobs from another project cost me about $25. That puts my total investment on this cedar chest at $83. I'm going to be listing this flip for $275, which means my total profit will be around $192, or for the 3 hours of labor that I put in, about $64 an hour. All right, that is it for me this week, except for me reminding you guys to like, comment, and subscribe. I will catch you guys next time.